Hello, this is Jennifer Parrish, Superintendent of Poquoson City Public Schools. Before I start talking about the proposed budget, I do want to remind you that if you have any questions related to what schools are doing as we face the challenges we're facing because of COVID-19, you do need to continue to go to our website as we continue to update that daily and sometimes hourly. We will also continue to tweet out any messages that we need to try and get out to the public, and we will continue to call and email our parents, families, as well as our employees. With that said, I'd like to go ahead and talk to you about the budget that I've proposed. The budget priorities that drove the budget that you're about to see included a compensation increase for all of employees and also to ensure that we maintained all of our instructional programs as we move into next school year. This slide is a little different than it was when I originally prepared this presentation several weeks ago. The fiscal year 21 budget that's being presented is based on the budget that was approved by the General Assembly prior to the national economic impact of COVID-19. It is very likely that the state officials will need to do a budget reforecast before the governor approves the state's fiscal year 21 budget. Clearly, with what we're seeing going on economically in our country, that reforecast may change state funding for fiscal year 21. I fully anticipate that we're going to see a decrease in state funding for what I'm going to share with you today. Also, the current state of the economy may impact the City of Poquoson's ability to fund this budget as it's being presented to you. Do know that there is no request for additional local funding in this budget. So it is our hope that we'll be able to stay at level funding as we move into fiscal year 21. But again, the economic crisis that we're facing as a result of COVID-19 might impact the City of Poquoson's ability to even level fund us going into next year. I just want to remind you from where we've come. From the years of fiscal year 10 to fiscal year 20, our current school year, we had to make approximately $5 million worth of programmatic and personnel reductions to offset the loss of state revenue, the increase in VRS rates, and the other cost increases since fiscal year 10. Keep in mind that this $5 million worth of programmatic and personnel reductions all began because of the major recession that we faced back in 2008, 2009, and also into 2010. From fiscal year 10 through fiscal year 13, 54.5 positions were eliminated, including 11 teaching positions beyond enrollment loss. From fiscal year 14 to 20, we had a net of 3 positions that were added back into the budget. So out of those 11 teaching positions that were cut beyond enrollment, we've only added 3 back into the budget. We also eliminated instructional programs of fiscal year 12 and fiscal year 13. Additionally, the City of Poquoson has provided our school division approximately $1.8 million in additional funding, and we use that money over the course of that time period to save positions and provide compensation. I do think that the history that you see here and where we've come since the start of the Great Recession is important because, as you know, we likely are moving into another recession. If that is the case, we again will find it very difficult to make cuts and reductions into our budget because we still haven't recovered, as you can see, from the last recession. Let me just touch on enrollment projections. What you see here below is a table that identifies the actual average daily membership that we used, and that is what our state budget is based on. Average daily membership is essentially the attendance rate of our students. It is not the actual enrollment of our students, which is another reason we tell our community it's so important that we have our students attend school. Based on the projections of the Weldon Cooper Center, which does the demographics for the state of Virginia, as well as our early kindergarten registration that took place in February, the ADM for the budget I'm presenting to you is projected to be 2132. What this means is we're projecting an enrollment of 2,152 students at the start of next school year. It does mean we're projecting an increase of 14 students next year. Please know this is a very conservative projection for us on the increase in enrollment. The Cooper Center actually has us showing a slightly larger increase of students, but we've chosen to be conservative moving into next year, and in light of the economic situation that we face now, this is the right decision. Here's what I can talk to you about now is the projected increase in state funding for fiscal year 21. Again, I stress that this increase in state funding was approved before we saw the huge impacts on our economy that COVID-19 is having at this time. So what we see here is an increase of the standards of quality funding of over $653,000. This is occurring because every 2 years the state rebenchmarks the funding that they provide to the school divisions, and they base this on what the SOQs tell us we need and what the cost of that funding is for us. You also see an increase in incentive and categorical funding of almost $29,000, and you see an increase in lottery funded programs of over $29,000. So our net projected state funding increase is $712,406. Again, I need to say this again. I believe we'll see a decrease in this funding once we see the budget reforecast and the state is able to gather the General Assembly together in Richmond to make some decisions about the budget for fiscal year 21. Let's talk a little bit about projected cost increases and decreases for fiscal year 21. I have some very good news to share in the area of health and dental insurance. We're actually projecting a decrease of $45,628. This is because we went out to a bid again for insurance, for health insurance, and through that bidding process, we were able to get a rate that actually ended up being a decrease for us. Some other good news here is what we're able to do in terms of our health insurance is lock into a 2-year rate. So this means next year there will not be an increase in health insurance rates for the school division. This will be very important next year as we likely move into a very challenging budget year as a result of the current situation. You do see here that we have an increased cost in terms of the VRS rate. Because the state decided to increase the VRS rate, we need to provide additional funding to cover the employer cost of that rate. Also, you see here a cost of about over $127,000 for instructional needs. This is a result of some needs that we need to meet, and you can see them listed here. We need another preschool teacher, and this is a result of special education regulations that we must follow. We also have a slight increase in the rate for our students who attend the Aviation Academy because we are now going to be allowing another grade level of students to attend that program. This is a 4-year rollout for us, and we're moving into year 3. There are some additional costs because of the program of studies and some of the courses that we're adding into the program. We also need to hire a sign language interpreter to meet the needs of our students. You see here an increase in contracts and utilities of over $136,000. None of this should surprise you, as you often see increases in your utilities and other contracts that we need to support the efficient running of our school division and specifically our buildings. You do see an increase in technology of over $62,000. We've had to enter into some new technology contracts and purchase some new software that causes us to have some ongoing costs. You do see personnel savings here of almost $99,000. We see that because we captured some savings when we went from last school year into this school year, as once we were done with our hiring, we identified some savings that we had because we had some younger teachers moving into our division where we lost some of our more veteran teachers. So what you see here is a total cost increase of $313,036. Here's something else that was approved by the General Assembly that's also adding to a cost increase that I wanted to separate to share with you. The General Assembly voted to increase the minimum wage to $12 per hour by the year 2023. As part of the gradual increase, the minimum wage must be $9.50 per hour for fiscal year 21. As a result, the substitute rates for paraprofessional and clerical positions need to be increased because we need to ensure that we're paying those individuals minimum wage. So what you see here is the current rate for paraprofessional and clerical staff is $62 per day. We need to raise that rate to meet the new minimum wage requirements to $80 per day. What you see here is this now is causing us to increase the substitute pay for our teachers and nurses because they're currently being paid $80 per day, yet they are asked to do more in our classrooms and in our clinics. So we want to make sure that we increase their pay rate as well. So what you see here is they will now be paid $100 per day. And then if we have a long-term substitute, substituting for a teacher who may be out for a number of weeks, we're increasing that pay from $95 per day to $110 per day. So this comes as a total cost increase of $61,488. As I mentioned earlier, but I want to highlight again what we've done with health insurance. As you know, it continues to be a considerable cost to the school division. And from the years fiscal year 10 through fiscal year 20, we've absorbed as a school division the majority of the increased cost of health care. We've done that because there have been some years when we're unable to provide an increase in compensation to our employees, so we didn't want to not provide an increased compensation, yet increase the cost of health insurance to our employees. So as I mentioned earlier, we issued an RFP for health and dental insurance and received favorable responses. As we always do, our staff met with the benefits committee to review proposals and recommended switching to Optima, which will result in the 2.83% decrease in rates that you saw and in savings of $45,628. And as I mentioned earlier, Optima has offered a 2-year guarantee for these rates, which will be very important for next year. So now let's talk about the compensation increase that was one of the goals for this budget. The General Assembly's budget included a 2% increase for fiscal year 21. This is for SOQ funded positions only. So please keep in mind that that does not cover all the positions that we have in our budget. The example that I use each year is we're able to have 30 students in a kindergarten classroom. We believe that is completely inappropriate in terms of class size for some of our youngest students. So we have to hire additional teachers that are not covered by SOQ funding to make sure that our class sizes are more appropriate for our young students. This means we bear the full brunt of the cost of the compensation for those employees to include those increases. So what we have here is a proposal to ensure that all teachers receive a minimum of a 2% increase. So our teachers will move up a step, so they receive the step increase plus a percentage increase that ensures they receive a minimum increase of 2%. Some teachers, when they move from one step to the next, don't actually have a 2% increase in their compensation, so we will put enough funding into that step increase to make sure they get that. Those teachers that get more than a 2% increase as a result of their step move or step increase will maintain that compensation per their step. All other employees will receive, according to this budget, a 2% compensation increase. The total cost of our compensation increase is over $342,000. So you have a sense of what this means. Our average teacher increase is 2.12%. All other employees' increase is a flat 2%. The teachers is slightly higher because there are a few steps where when a teacher moves from one to the next, they'll receive slightly more than just the 2% increase. But again, no teacher will receive less than a 2% compensation increase no matter where they are on the step scale. Let me just provide you now a budget summary based on the information I've shared with you throughout this presentation. As you see here, total state funding increase is over $712,000. As I mentioned previously, I fully anticipate that we'll see a decrease in this once the budget reforecast has been completed. You see here $4,700 that are attached to a local increase in food service. I didn't discuss this previously because this really doesn't impact our operating budget, but you will see it in our budget document, so I wanted you to understand where that $4,700 comes from. Here you see our budget additions. Those include our net cost increase of over $313,000. As you remember, this includes the addition of some staff that we're required to add into our school division and therefore the budget, as well as cost increases such as the increase of utilities and various contracts that we have. Also, you see the impact of the minimum wage increase, which is coming because of the new law passed by the General Assembly, and that comes at a cost of over $61,000. As you see here, our largest cost increase is that of the cost of compensation to provide at least a 2% raise to all employees. It comes at a cost of over $342,000. The good news here is with the funding increase and then our budget additions, we do not have a budget shortfall, and we also do not have a budget surplus. So this means this completes the budget process, and we do not have to ask the city for additional funding, which is important because they already anticipated a challenging budget year before we had the impact of COVID-19, and now we know it'll likely be even more challenging. Again, I want to stress to you that I do believe our funding increase numbers may change as we move through the next weeks and as well as the coming months due to the national economic crisis we're currently facing. So the budget process is a little bit different than it's been in past years. On March 24th, we're going to hold a public hearing on our budget, and if the school board is comfortable with the budget, they will approve it that evening. Our public hearing will be done a little differently because, as you know, the public buildings on the peninsula have been closed. So we will have the hearing and we will televise it live, and we will also stream it live. We are going to provide you with phone numbers as well as an email address that can be used, so as the public hearing is occurring, you're able to email in any questions or concerns or any comments that you have. You can also call them in. We will then provide them to the school board on camera so you can hear that your comment, question, or concern was given to the board so that we can address that as part of the public hearing. Thank you for your flexibility in this. Certainly this is a challenging time for us as we meet the new restrictions that have been placed on us as a result of COVID-19. On March 27th, the school board budget will be sent to City Council. This could also be the evening that the school board approves the budget if they have any questions about it after the public hearing on March 24th. Again, we will put information about the phone numbers and email address as well as where you can see the live stream of the public hearing on our website. So please take a look if you're interested in engaging in it. I just want to do a quick reminder of where we are with our budget, both present and future. It's important to remember that the state has still not fully reinvested in K-12 education since the recession, and we continue to endure unfunded mandates. As a matter of fact, the General Assembly has passed quite a few of them this year in this session. This information is very important because if we move into a recession, as it looks like we will, we're going to have to contend with the new recession in terms of our budget when we still haven't fully recovered from the Great Recession in terms of the funding that we've received from the state and have gotten so many unfunded mandates since the Great Recession. Also important that you remember that the state still provides no direct funding for construction or maintenance of K-12 school facilities, and that has not changed with this budget. This is especially important to us now as we continue to work on the renovation of the middle school. As you know, the city did provide us $20 million for the middle school project and also address some roof issues that we have with two of our buildings. You can see all the information related to the middle school project and any changes that we've made to the roofing projects on our website as well. But what's important to note here is the state is providing no funding for any of those projects. And the last bullet is important. As a result of the current national crisis, we anticipate changes being made to the budget as presented due to the possibility that state and local revenue may decrease. As soon as we have more information about what might happen to our budget, we will certainly provide it to you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation, and I do hope that all of you stay well, and please do not hesitate to contact us as we move through the experience that we're having now as a result of COVID-19. We want to continue to find ways to work with our families so that we can continue to educate our students while they're at home.